Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Agent Psycho. In this video, as you guys can clearly tell by the title, I'm going to be giving you guys my opinion on the top 10 SMGs or submachine guns in combat arms. So this is going to be just like the last video of the top 10 ARs, where I am not including any epics or NX rares because, again, I think that's kind of unfair and skews the whole top 10 list overall. So I will not be including those kinds of guns in this top 10 video. So without further ado, let's get started on this top 10. Now coming in at number 10 is the M249 Para. This is kind of like the CC805 in the last top 10 AR video, where not a lot of people know about this submachine gun because, well, it's an M249 variant technically. This is the submachine gun variant of the machine gun M249 Mini-Me. The reason why not a lot of people like it is because it has a lot of recoil, which is not very characteristic of a lot of submachine guns, because usually the majority of the NX standard submachine guns that Nexon releases is like, you know, the 36 damage low recoil submachine gun, like, you know, the Magpul or the FMG-9 from ISAF. Those kinds of submachine guns a lot of people tend to think of as, you know, the traditional NX standard submachine gun like archetype, so to say. However, the M249 Para clearly doesn't follow that archetype, and instead what it has going on for it is the fact that it has a very high damage at 38. 38 is, if you guys didn't know, 38 is the highest damage rating that of any submachine gun in the game. There are a couple of submachine guns that share the 38 damage rating, such as the UMP45, the M249 Para, and maybe a couple others as well. But the 249 Para is, again, one of those few submachine guns that has a lot of damage. So what you get out of the Para is extremely high damage. This is almost like an assault rifle grade range for a submachine gun, except obviously it's a submachine gun, so it's not going to have that much range because of the recoil it has. However, if you manage the recoil, and it's actually pretty easy to do because the 249 Para does have lower rate of fire because of its heightened damage, because obviously Nexon thinks you have a high damage rating, you can't really have a high rate of fire rating as well. So because it has a slow rate of fire, it's very easy to control the recoil, and thus you can really land your shots if you were to control your fire, especially at long range. At close range, obviously you can go full auto, and if your bullets all connect, you can absolutely melt people doing so. But as long as you have good fire control, the M249 Para is, I think, one of the better submachine guns in this game, and that's why it takes its spot at number 10. Now coming in at number 9, we've got the classic, traditional, well, I should say classic, but we've got the good old PP19, or the Bison PP19, so you guys might know it as the Bison for Call of Duty Ghosts or whatever. But in any case, the PP19. This submachine gun is just really fun to use. I mean, if you guys have not used this gun before, then I think you're missing out, because this is by far the most amount of ammunition that any single gun can carry in a single magazine, except for machine guns. The PP19 holds 64, or technically in combat arms it holds 65 bullets, and it's just, this gun is the ultimate spray and pray. I mean, there's a reason why I call the PP19 the Pew Pew 19, because, you know, it's got 65 rounds per magazine, and you can literally just spray and pray all day long. That's what it's meant to do, and it's got good damage. It's just the only problem is that because of the recoil stat isn't really that bad, but because it has so many bullets and because you can spray for so long, the recoil eventually does get out of control rather quickly too. So that's the only downside to it. But if you were to, you know, like I said, with the M249 Para, control the recoil a little bit, or get yourself in a situation where, you know, you're close enough to your enemy where you don't really need to worry about, you know, controlling your fire rate, then, you know, you can just keep spraying on for days and days and not give a shit. So the PV-19 is just really fun gun to use. This is one of the best submachine gun, I guess you could say, families for getting a lot of accolades. Just Jungfly one-man army, PP-19 is just unbelievable for days and days and days. Just keep in mind that the PP-19 mod is not as good. I personally do not like the PP-19 mod at all, but then again, that was back in the days when I used it, and it wasn't really that great, because I felt the silencer just nerfed the damage on the PP-19 a little bit too much. The PP-19 mod, or the PP-19 mod camo, the NX Ray variant, is still pretty good, but then again, we're not counting NX rares and NX epics here, are we? So the PP19 or the PP19 camo are the ones I'm looking at, not necessarily the PP19 mod. So just keep that in mind. Now coming in at number 8, we've got the Mac 11. Now this might come as a surprise to a lot of people, but the Mac 11, honestly, I think is a really good NX standard submachine gun. The Mac 10, the original GP standard variant, however, it's good, but obviously it's the GP standard variant and it's the Mac 10. No one really ever uses the Mac 10 for a good reason. It's not as good as, you know, some machines out there. But the Mac 11 is significantly improved over the original GP standard variant. It does more damage. You know, it's basically a hyper buffed Mac 10. And also the Mac 10 SE, which is the GP rare variant, is also very, very good too. So if you don't have the money to buy the Mac 11, you can just go ahead and buy the Mac 10 SE if you can afford it, if you're high enough rank, and use that instead. Because the Mac 10 SE is also, I think, is also pretty pretty good for a GP standard or GP rare submachine gun. So that being said, Mac 11 it's just like the PP19, where it's really a close quarters, get down and dirty submachine gun, but its rate of fire and its recoil kind of make it so that if you're in a perfect range and you start spraying, all the bullets will hit, and anyone you shoot will absolutely melt. It's kind of one of those submachine guns where it has a tendency to do that, where it's like you position yourself correctly and approach your enemy at just the right angle, and whoever you shoot, all the bullets will land perfectly and they're gone. They're just like that. And the Mac, that's really why I like the Mac 11. It's just, it has that tendency to do that, and because it matches my playstyle so well, constantly rushing, being aggressive, Mac 11 is just perfect for me, and that's really why I like it, and that's why it gains a spot at number 8. And at number 7, we've got the Micro Uzi. The Micro Uzi and the Mac 11 are actually very, very similar in performance, in my opinion. I just tend to think of the Mac 11, or the Micro Uzi rather, as a Mac 11 with a silencer. Basically, that's how I look at it. And the reason why it's actually above the Mac 11, the Micro Uzi that is because of the fact that it comes with the silencer, and the silencer actually helps reduce the recoil on the Micro Uzi. It's a lot more manageable, and overall, it's a little bit easier to use than the Mac 11. However, I will say as a caveat to this that the Micro Uzi, the silencer on that thing, even though I did say it reduces recoil, what I mean by that is that it'll reduce the vertical recoil, but instead it'll slightly increase the side-to-side recoil. So you'll find that the Micro Uzi bobs left and right a little bit more than the Mac 11 does. But overall, I would say the Micro Uzi does have a little bit less recoil than the Mac 11, because the Mac 11 does shoot up straight up pretty quick, whereas the Micro Uzi kind of stays in the same area for a little bit. You can control it rather easily. So the Micro Uzi again is perfect for a stealth aggressive role, where if you really want to kind of, I wouldn't say stay off the radar, because in combat arms you don't really show up on any radar. In fact, the radar is kind of useless in combat arms, and no one really ever uses it, I don't think, unless you really, you're using a heartbeat sensor or something like that. But if you are super into silencers, if you really want to have like a unique silencer that'll, make your gun sound a little bit quieter, then the Micro Uzi is a really, really good choice for you, because the silencer on that thing is actually really damn good, and I really like it. It's quite impressive. So yeah, the Micro Uzi, perfect stealth slash aggressive submachine gun, and yeah, that's all I really have to say. Oh, and also the because the Micro Uzi is a variant of the Uzi class, I would say the Uzi Metal is also a pretty good candidate to swap it out. I would say actually the Micro Uzi, or the Uzi Metal, the GP rare variant, and the Mac 10 SE also share the 7th and 8th spot respectively. So if I were to swap out the Micro Uzi and the Mac 11 because they're NX standards and put in GP rare variants, I would put the Uzi Metal at 7th place and the Mac 10 SE at 8th place respectively. So it kind of shares that trait. Now coming in at number 6, we got the Kriss SpecOps. The Kriss SpecOps is a really, really good submachine gun, and now that I think about it, I'm kind of depressed that it doesn't get a higher spot than this. but the Kriss SpecOps is really, really great. You know, it's actually kind of a surprise too, because the original Kriss, the GP standard Kriss, I mean, it's got some machine gun, but don't get me wrong, it's not that great, all things considered. I mean, it's got really, really bad vertical or diagonal recoil, which is actually really, really unique amongst a lot of guns in the game. In fact, the Kriss may just be like the Kriss and the Scar L are the two guns in the game that have like really weird vertical recoil, and no one really knows why they have that kind of recoil. No one knows why Nexon gave them those kinds of recoil patterns, but you know, it is what it is. And you know, personally, I find diagonal recoil extremely annoying. I can deal with side to side recoil, I can deal with up and down recoil, but diagonal recoil? What the hell is that? But you know, it is what it is, like I said. But the Kriss SpecOps, for whatever reason, it might be the silencer, it might be the buffs that it got, but the Kriss SpecOps is a lot better. The overall recoil is reduced. The spread at which the Kriss SpecOps increases to when you go full auto is also reduced. In other words, center speed is increased, and the silencer just makes it all better. I believe the reload speed is also slightly increased as well. The animation that your character goes through to reload the Kriss SpecOps, I think, is slightly faster than the one on the original Kriss. And yeah, the Kriss SpecOps is just overall a great submachine gun, and you know, if it's one of those submachines where you have to really use it in order to understand just how good it is or it can be. The only problem with the only reason why it's at number 6 right now is because of the fact that I never really gave it a chance to use it very much. If I had bought it for permanent, because when the Kriss SpecOps first came out, I was like, oh, you know, it's a Kriss variant. You know, I don't really know if I want to buy this because the Kriss kind of, you know, is kind of meh. I don't really know if it's gonna be worth it. And then when I used it, like maybe a couple months later, I was like, I should really bought this for perm. So that's really the only reason why it's at number 6 instead of a higher placing, because it just didn't have the chance to use it for as long, and I never really bothered to get it for permanent, use it, you know, extensively. So, but yeah, just take my word for it. I guess the Kriss SpecOps is an amazingly good submachine gun, and the only reason why it's at number 6 is because I personally never gave it a chance to use it very much. Now at number 5 comes the entire MP5 family. The MP5A4, the MP5A4 Mark II, the MP5 RAS, the MP5 Mod, the MP5 Mod Mark II, the MP5 RAS Centurion, all the MP5s. I love the MP5 family, all of them. Like even the GP standard variant, I first thought it wasn't really that great, and then I gave it a second try, maybe like a couple years ago, and then it's just, you know, loved it. Loved it. The MP5s are probably the most consistent submachine guns family in my opinion. Like all the variants they're all great. There's nothing bad about, or there's nothing like glaringly bad about them that would make me want to not use them, you know. So I mean, even the GP standard variant, the MP5 that you can buy for 800 GP for one day, is one of those few starter guns that Nexon has decided to, you know, make available for one day because they're starter weapons. You know, even that is really, really good given in the right hands and played well. So yeah, the MP5. MP5s, there's nothing really more I can say. They're headshot machines. Like, they were the original headshot machines before the FMG-9 came out. So, yeah. Again, nothing more I should say about this. All the MP5 variants are really, really great. And, yeah. Just try it for yourself. Give it a try. And, you know, even though they might be variants of, like, a starter gun, you know, starter guns don't really get a lot of fame and love from the CA community, but they're really deserving of all the love they can get, because they're really, really great. Now, coming at number 3, we've got the Magpul FMG-9, or the FMG-9 Magpul, whichever it's called. I'll just call it the Magpul. Magpul comes at number 3 because of one or two reasons. First one, lowest recoil of any submachine gun out there, bar none, except for the MP5s. Except for the MP5s. You can think of the FMG-9 as the long lost cousin of the MP5. You can think of it that way. How's that? I mean, they both fire pistol caliber 9 parabellum anyway. Second of all, the FMG-9, because of its low recoil, is the Lotto machine. It is the biggest Lotto machine of any submachine gun out there. Even I can reliably get headshots or Lottos with the FMG-9 Magpul. That's just how good it is, just how accurate it is. Just like the MP5s, all you need to do is just aim somewhere at the head, and you'll get headshots all day, every day. You know, it's just how it is. It's just in its nature. That's why the FMG-9 Magpul is just really, really great. Even though it only has 35 damage, so it's technically a little bit weaker than most other NX standard submachine guns, it doesn't really matter. The FMG-9 Magpul is just, I mean, I don't know, it's just really, really good. It's got a really fast draw speed, extremely fast rate of fire, or well, obviously it's got 90 rate of fire. What I meant to say was extremely fast reload speed, because the Magpul cannot have a magazine modification, so you can't put an extended mag, or you can't put a shortened mag. Because of that, Nexon gave the Magpul a very fast reload speed, and this is like the perfect, like, it's basically the perfect rushing tool for me. You know, it can kill a couple people pretty quickly and pretty easily with one magazine, and you know, reload, just bam, doesn't even take a second, and you're good to go again with a fresh mag. So the FMG-9 Magpul, great submachine gun, one of the best NX standard submachine guns out there. If you're super into lottoing, if you want to, you know, kill people quickly by using headshots, Magpul all day, every day. That's why it comes in at number 3. In at number 4, we've got the infamous CZ Skorpion EVO 3A1. Yes, that's the exact name. That's the full name of that damn SMG. In any case, the reason why the CZ Skorpion is at number 4 is because of the fact that its stats, it's kind of like the M14 or the Mark 14 Mod O in my top 10 AR list, where the stats alone get it to number 4. The CZ Skorpion has the best combination of stats of any submachine gun in the game. It's got 36 rate of fire. I believe it only has 88 no, it should have 90 portability. It's one of the few submachines that has 90 portability and 90 rate of fire, and that's extremely rare. I believe, yeah, the rate of fire and portability are both at 90. The accuracy is very high. I think it's 70 unless they nerfed it. And the recoil is also technically very low at 60. I think, again, I'm pulling these numbers off my head back when I did the CZ Skorpion review. It was a long time ago, let me tell you that much. So I might be wrong on that. But I do remember that the CZ Skorpion EVO 3A1 has the best combination of stats of any submachine in the game. It's got very high accuracy. It's got very low recoil, technically, or statistically, and it's got 90 portability, 90 rate of fire. I mean, what more can you ask for? And it's got 36 damage. So, yeah, just overall, statistically speaking, the perfect submachine, or as perfect as you can make it. The reason why it doesn't get a higher placing than this, however, is just because of the fact that in practice, there are a couple other submachine guns that I'll mention later in this video that do perform a little bit better than the CZ Skorpion. But other than that, the CZ Skorpion, it does well. I mean, its statistics, just like the Mark 14 Mod O, the statistics make it a good gun. And you know, as long as you play to its strengths, and you know, have a feel for how it acts and how it behaves, then you should be able to do well with it, no matter what game you get yourself into. So yeah, the CZ Skorpion, like I said, it's just one of those guns where the stats make the gun, and that's why it comes in at number 4. Now coming at number 2, we've got the P90 family. Yep, that's right. The P90TR has to come on there onto this list somewhere, somehow. So the P90TR, or the P90, P90TR, and P90SE, they all make their spot over here at number 2. Reason why is because I don't really surprisingly enough, I don't like the P90TR as much as I do the original P90 or even the P90SE. In fact, I think the P90 Nexon never fixed a reload glitch on the P90, so basically the P90 reloads just as fast as the P90SE, which is kind of wrong because the P90SE is meant to have a faster reload than the P90, but who the hell cares? Anyways, so the P90, P90TR, whatever. I mean, everyone knows how good they are. That's the reason why a lot of people use them for God's sake. The reason why the P90TR is at number 2 is because of the fact that personally, I fucking hate it when people use it against me because they always do well. You know, my kryptonite. I always say, if you want to do well against me, you always just bring a P90, bring a fem base, and just keep bunny hopping or a crouch spam. But then again, I'll hate your guts. And because of the fact that I never bothered giving ever using it ever. Like, I bought the P90TR for perm when Nexon was phasing out the permanent sales like a long time ago, and they sold it for like 60 or 50% off. So I was like, oh cool, I'll get it, I guess. And I got it for like 7 or 8K NX. But ever since then, I've only used it like a handful of times. You know, it's not very interesting to me to use because I see everyone else use it. I'm like, wow, they're taking the easy way out. Why should I use the P90TR then? And I never really use it, even though it's a good submachine gun. So, yeah, I'm not good with the P90TR myself. I can make do with it, but I'm honestly much better with the original P90 or the P90 SE even. So, yeah. Again, we don't count the P90TR SE because if we did, this would be a whole different ball game. But other than that, the P90TRs do make its way at number 2, just because of how good they are, and just because of how good everyone else makes them make them look. But they're still number 2. They're not number 1. Here's the number 1. And finally, the submachine gun that takes the cake. Number 1, the UMP. Some of you guys may have seen this coming ever since I announced the P90s to be number 2. But the UMPs are the classic submachine guns of the game. It's kind of like the G36, where this was the classic weapon of its category and has never really strayed down from it. Sure, yeah, the UMP has had a couple of nerfs. I think it had a couple of nerfs. It definitely was not as good as it was before. But the UMP is still as great as it was, as you know, even if there were nerfs. It doesn't really matter to me because honestly, I feel like I can still do work with the UMPs, and you know, the 35 round magazine, the high 37 damage and relatively stable recoil. There's not really much else that can beat the UMPs, really. The classic UMP is just, not only is it nostalgic, but also it's still really good. And also, now that they've added UMP variants to it, where by adding in the UMP SC, UMP 45, UMP 45 AC. In fact, if you guys didn't know, the UMP 45 SC, if you put a silencer on that thing, I believe in S3, or it could be any silencer, I don't know. But if you put a silencer on that, then you get the original MP7 mod silencer sound, and that's only unique to UMP 45 SE, and yeah, it's pretty cool. But other than that, the UMPs are just all great. The UMP 45 also has 38 damage, which is one of the highest damage, or it shares, or it's one of the highest damaging submachine guns out there with a 38 damage rating, because like I said before, with the M249 Para, the 38 rating is the highest damage that any submachine gun can have so far in this game. But in any case, the UMPs are really good. I really love them. I always do well whenever I use them, so, you know, that's why it beats the P90s in my opinion, because personally I can use them better than P90s, and you know, because this is my opinion video, I really think the UMPs trump the P90s at the end of the day. And yeah, maybe not a lot of people, especially those who use P90TRs and P90TRSCs, would agree with me, but you know, whatever, they don't have to agree with me. I think these are the most, I think the UMPs are the best submachines in the game, bar none. And yeah, they're the most consistent. I like consistency. Everyone likes consistency, and the UMPs got them. So anyways, guys, thank you guys very much for watching. This has been the top 10 SMGs in Combat Arms. And if you guys would like to see other top 10s from me, then let me know in the comments, and I will see you guys later.